Our backup, yeah, the backup, and then it'll just say we'll just say meeting in progress and whenever it's a good pause.
Oh,
It's working now,
Oh, internet's working?
on YouTube. It's streaming. Yeah.
Okay.
He doesn't.
We will now return to open session. Welcome to the National School District Governing Board meeting. We apologize for the delay. We were having technical difficulties. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I was backing up into somebody. Nice. You take it right.
Just to report, we had no action during closed session. Recording Secretary, please take roll.
Ms. Lizárraga,
Present.
Ms. Gates,
Present.
Ms. Sarmiento,
Present.
Ms. Betancourt Castañeda,
Present.
Ms. Dalla is absent.
Thank you. Item 10, public communication. Public communication provides the public with an opportunity to address the board regarding an item on the agenda or other topic. Anyone wishing to address the board shall submit a request for oral communication card. Cards are available near the entrance to the boardroom and are to be submitted to the recording secretary. A member of the public who wishes to address the board on any such matter is limited to 3 minutes for one matter, up to a maximum of 5 minutes for all matters. There shall be a limit of 20 minutes for any matter unless such time limit is waived by the majority vote of the board. Members of the public may not yield any time to other speakers. No board action can be taken. Do we have any speakers?
No speakers.
Thank you. Item 11A is to accept the agenda. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Ms. Gates? I second it. Mrs. Lizárraga? Any discussion? Please vote. Okay. Raise your hand for yes.
Oh, it doesn't work?
They can't see it.
I'm
Item
abstaining.
passes.
I'm abstaining since I was absent.
So the minutes of, this is for the agenda. So this is for the agenda. Okay,
So
so
yes,
for tonight's agenda.
I'm voting yes.
Okay. So we have 4 yeses and 1 absence. The motion passes 4-0. Item 12 is to approve consent agenda, routine items of business. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be acted upon in one action by the board. It is understood that the superintendent has recommended approval for these items. There will be no discussion prior to the time of the board votes on the motion unless members of the board, staff, or public request specific items to be discussed and or removed from the consent agenda. All items approved by the board will be deemed as considered in full and adopted as recommended. May I get a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Ms. Gates? Can I
I'll
get a
second it.
Ms. Lizárraga? Any discussion? Are we on with this? No? No, okay. No discussion, raise your hand for yes. We have 4-0, passed, the motion passes. Thank you. Item 13, general function. Item 13A is to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting held on January 19, 2020. Can I get a motion?
I move to accept the board minutes.
I second the motion. And the purpose of us separating the minutes is because we did have absences, and so therefore we were able to have the motion, the item for that purpose separately. Okay, have a motion and a second. If you have any additional discussion, please vote. Yes? 3. Any
I'll be abstaining.
nays? Okay, 1 abstention. Okay, we have, the motion passes 3 yeses, 0 noes, and 1 abstention. Submit them. Okay. Item 13B is to adopt resolution number 21-22.16 regarding absence for board member Mrs. Maria Dalla due to illness. Can I get a motion?
And I vote on that as I was asked.
Yeah, you can vote on
I move to approve.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? If none, raise your hand in favor.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Thank you.
Madam President, I'd like to pull item 13C and table that for future meeting.
13C.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you. So, going item 13C, moving on to item 13D.
Do we need to make an amendment to that vote for approving the agenda, or how does that work? If we pulled an item from agenda?
So we could
I
have.
think you probably, since you already accepted the agenda, you may need to vote on that as an individual item to pull that.
And
have to be split up.
since I made the motion, then, I vote, I'll amend my motion to, table 13C.
So we'll do it right here at this item because we already passed the other item, so we will make the motion to pull item 13C,
Okay.
and then somebody else wants to second it, so you will make the motion,
I made a motion,
and,
you could second.
Okay, to pull it out.
and then
Table it for.
all in favor to pull this item?
Okay.
Aye.
Right.
Item 13D is to adjust monthly stipend for governing board members. Can I get a motion?
I'll move to adjust the monthly stipend.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If none, please vote yes. So we have 4 yeses, 1 absent. The motion passes. Item 13E is to approve membership to the NALEO, which is the National Association of Latino Elected and Appointed Officials for Miss Michelle Gates, and renew of membership from Miss Maria Benco Castaneda and Miss Maria Dalla. Can I get a motion?
I motion to approve.
Any seconds?
Second.
Motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? I'd just like to make a comment. I've been a proud member of NALEO. It's an organization that has supported our Latino community, and since we are predominantly Latino in our community, it's very important that, we have that support. And anytime I've ever attended a conference,
they're so powerful and you have so much information. And it's unfortunate we haven't had a chance to attend anything recently, but once we do, I highly encourage Michelle, since you'll be a member, for us to attend, because you come back and it's just amazing at everything that they learn, that they teach us, and we are able to learn because they focus on our Latino community. So,
And this is an odd one for me, because just realistically speaking, and honestly speaking, I am not Latina, but I have asked a few of you for wisdom on that, and wisdom that was given was, as a representative of so many, it would be right and good for me to be more informed and be a part of this organization because of that particular work. So
exactly, I agree.
thank you for the encouragement.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. We have no additional discussion. You vote yes, please raise your hand.
Yes.
We have, the motion passes 4-0, yes, four yes, 0 abstentions, and 1 absent. I will get it. Item 14A, educational services. 14A is to amend contract CT 3846 with Ed Berry to provide special education services during the 2021-2022 school year. Can I get a motion?
I'll move to amend that contract.
And a second?
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? If none, raise your hand for yes, if you're in favor.
Yes.
The motion passes 4 yeses, 0 abstentions, and 1 absent. Item 14B is to approve contract CT 3916 with Verbal Behavior Associates to provide special education and behavioral services during the 2021-2022 school year. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
I second it.
Motion by Sarmiento and second by Mr. Sala. Any discussions?
I'm just wondering, since this is a new contract, have we worked with them before?
We have in the past.
So someone with whom we're familiar. Thank you.
Just a comment on that. This is for the efforts of relieving or mitigate the learning loss for special education. Just to clarify that.
That is true, and to address some of the issues that emerged from it that might be related to behavior, social, emotional, as well as any other special ed needs.
Thank you. Yeah, I know the agency by heart. Thank you.
Thank you. We have no additional discussion. Please vote, raise your hand for yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the motion passes 4 yeses, 0 abstention, and 1 absent. Thank you. Item 14C is to approve contract CT 3913 with Youth Philharmonic Orchestra to provide music classes for John Otis for the 2021-2022 school year. Can I get a motion?
A motion to approve.
I second that with joy.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any additional discussion?
Best of luck for the kids. Enjoy them.
We will have to be invited to their performance.
If you don't mind.
Okay, if we have nothing else, please vote, raise your hand for yes. The motion passes 4 yes, 0 abstentions, and 1 absent. Item 14D is to approve contract CT 3917 between the San Diego County Superintendent of Schools, SDCOE, and the National School District for the Creating Opportunities in Preventing and Eliminating Suicide Grant. Can I get a motion?
I motioned it.
Motion.
Second.
Second. Do we have any discussion?
Within the last year and a half, I've lost a very close friend to suicide. So, someone closer to my age. And too many times we assume that because we are serving children, that it's not the same fight. But children have even fewer resources and coping skills. So I'm thankful that this has been brought to us.
Another comment on that, this is something that we see far away sometimes, but it's very close by to our families. And hopefully this, keeping awareness about, to keep an eye on our kids and the signaling that they show up to us with their behavior. So hopefully this can be really, be and embraced by the parents and the families. So hopefully we can mitigate the actual reality of the kids. Thank you.
My one other thought would be this, as teachers and staff, very often we don't have the awareness that we need to be paying attention. So this isn't necessarily an on-task comment, but it's connected. If we are able to bring in some people to help with training, is that, because right now, is that when I looked at it, it talked about to students in the community, but for staff, for identification, we really need to be working in those areas to make sure we're as equipped as we can be for catching things, that's all.
Yes, we will approach this from a 360 approach, even if within the provisions of the grant, if we do not feel it's sufficient, we will make sure that we will utilize the funds that we have to ensure that our teachers are aware and trained and feel confident in that.
Yeah, our counselors can't do it by themselves, it has to be all.
Teamwork.
Right, thank you. Do we have any additional discussion? That's ready to do something?
Yes, I just wanted to inform the board that due to our technical difficulties, we did I believe we changed the link to tonight's meeting and some people are having difficulty getting in. However, on our NSD YouTube homepage, the link is posted and it is streaming live. So we'll make sure that we get it out through Messenger on our website and through email tomorrow, that if anyone wants to watch the recording, if they weren't able to get in tonight, that they have access to that. And so we just wanted to let you know in case you're here.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second for item 14B. If you have no additional discussion, please vote. We have 4 yeses, 0 abstention, and 1 absent. Thank you. Item 14E is to approve contract CT 3920 with Young and Engineers of Greater San Diego LLC to provide after-school engineering classes for Lincoln Acres School for the 2021-2022 school year. Can I get a motion?
I motion it.
Motion, can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? If none, please vote. Yes. Motion passes 4 yes, 0 abstentions, and 1 absent. Thank you. Item 15, Human Resources. 15A is to approve the revised job description for Coordinator of Educational Services. Can I get a motion?
Approve with discussion, please.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second with discussion.
Thank you. Yeah, I was noticing in the backup, it says recent federal program monitoring findings reveal the extent of change that has occurred. Are we going to have a report on that federal program monitoring results? Because I'd like to know what it is that I'm voting on before I approve the job description for someone who's supposed to be working along with this.
So in one of our recent memos, we did share with the board some of the different areas that we were audited for program federal program monitoring. And as you probably recall, there were 9 findings in the English learner section. We had a few fiscal findings and a few other findings as well. So we have 45 days to address those findings. And then once that 45-day period is completed, then we can certainly bring, we filed an extension. Okay, I'll let Dr. Kraft add to that. But then once those findings are cleared, or the window closes, at that point, we can give the board the final federal program monitoring report. However, we are seeing that with the pandemic, the learning loss for our special needs students, and as well as our special populations, such as English learners, there is a great need to focus on closing that learning and opportunity gap for those students. And so this is a great need, and it is one of our LCAP goals. So as you see here too, it won't come out of our base budget funding, but we are getting a lot of one-time money to make steps to close those gaps and address those needs. And English learners being so predominant in the national school districts, and the results of the monitoring, which you'll hear a deeper report on, we do see that we really need to focus on our English learners at this time.
So, as Dr. Brady was speaking to with the findings, we do have 45 days, at which point we can file an extension. We had findings last year in our last FPM around English learners, and it's really a push for a deeper, comprehensive requirements. Parent engagement was one of the key components. Monitoring, ensuring parity in terms of performance between identified ELs and those that were not. So as Dr. Brady said, we can provide a report, but the need to really target and the focus that we have with 50+% of our students identified as English learners is a very large task. And so to be able to really focus on mitigating what was lost. It wasn't our last board member, but there was a couple of board members before where I did provide the board the data on the achievement and comparing the students that are identified as English learners and the students that are not EL, in both English, language arts, and math.
And I'd be happy to pull that data back together and repost it in your memo for this Friday too, so it's at the top of your list.
Well, that's fine if you send it to the board members, but I think the public should be interested in this and hearing as far as the findings and why they reveal the extent of the change that is needed. This isn't something that, I feel like it's kind of behind the scenes sort of stuff, but I think parents need to be aware of this as well. So that's why I would like to see some kind of report, open public report at one of our board meetings regarding the federal program monitoring findings so that everyone is well aware of what's happening.
Absolutely. It is still in progress. So when it is completed, we'd be happy to share that with the board. The stuff that's in the memo are initial findings as they're coming, but we want to make sure we complete the process so you have the full report.
And also, isn't this what the ELLs at the individual schools do as well? Isn't that part of their responsibilities? Our liaisons?
The EL liaisons? Well, they have a job description. They're teachers that help facilitate some of the tasks and the conversations with the parents around that, but they're not in charge of meeting the compliance piece. They help to facilitate that.
Okay, well, I just want to justify in my mind, if we're planning on bringing someone on board, I'm already hearing complaints that department is top heavy and a little bit packed at the moment, and where are you going to put them? Are you going to be sharing offices or whatever? But I just think I would like some justification in my mind for, I don't have a problem with revising the job description. My concern is if you plan on bringing someone on board, how is that going to be facilitated? That's all.
So currently we don't have any, we haven't filled that position because we haven't had applicants that we would be interested in hiring.
So we actually haven't filled that position because we haven't had that position in many, many years. At one point it did exist and we did have a person in that position, but it must have been probably around 15 to 12 years ago. So now with the new requirements, we're seeing a need to bring that position back to ensure that we close the equity gap for our students. So this position is really focusing on the needs of the students, and they're going to support that and support our school sites to ensure that they meet all the requirements, that they actually have the paperwork and for the reclassification, all of those things that our ELAs can support, but they're not at the district office in the sense, and they're not in the centralized, and they're not also supporting the FPM process. So that's one of the reasons why we thought, okay, this is the time when we probably really need to bring that person back because of the learning gaps that we have, and we want to ensure that these students are really given the opportunity to, like I said, close those equity gaps and ensure that they have that opportunity like everybody else.
Well, there's no question about that, and I appreciate that. My only concern is, you know, the discussions that we've had in recent months regarding possible layoffs and also demoting people. And I have to have justification in my mind if we were to bring someone in, especially if we haven't had someone for all these years and we've been doing fine up until now, and now it's a problem. So I just want to make sure that I understand it thoroughly, that the public gets a report on it, and that'll help justify in my mind the decisions we'll be making.
So this will help in alleviating us having so many findings and us not having to have the program monitoring, because as I understand it, it's very, very comprehensive to go back and make all these corrections and justifications. So this would help all those deficits that we are currently facing with our ELs, if that's correct.
Yeah, so having one person assigned to this and really ensuring that our English learners are receiving the programs that are needed, that would definitely support the federal monitoring program, of course. Also, I just want to add that the type of funding that we would use would not be base funding. It would come out of one-time funding, and it would only really be until the money is there. So it could be a few years, but it really is depending on the funding source. It would not be taken out of our base. So it could be that this position is only there for a few years, but then at that time we can reevaluate and see if we would still need that position or how we could fund it, but it would not be coming out of our base.
So if it's one-time funding, it'll be just 1 year position, you hire someone for 1 year, is that what you're saying?
We have funding for the next few years, I would say probably 2 to 3 years. So we do know that we have that funding, but then after that, we of course would have to reevaluate and ensure. So as you know, when we take administrative positions, we always go into it knowing that many of them at the district office, they are funded by, could be possibly one-time money, not necessarily base funding. So at that time, we could reevaluate that. But usually our applicants know coming in, it could only be for a few years that they have this position.
So if we go back in time and look at when we had this, we probably sunset this position, my guess would be during the budget cuts of 2007. And it took us probably to 2017 or 18 to even get back to the same levels of funding that we had at those times. We just hired a coordinator of special education because we saw the ramifications of what the pandemic did to that subgroup of students. This position is going to be for English learners. It is tied to millions of dollars that come in through our Title I and Title III dollars. And so if we have too many findings and we don't put that focus on the compliance in addition to making sure that the students are getting what they want, we would be at risk of losing funding for our students. So yes, sometimes you have to put money out to get money back, but we really think attention to our English learner program to get it to where it needs to be and to address the needs coming out of the pandemic is the right thing to do at this time. I would like to address the layoffs. We agree. We don't want to bring new programs or new positions forward when we are looking at layoffs in the future. As you heard from Mr. Avanesian's first interim budget report back in December, with all of the one-time funding, districts around us are on a hiring frenzy. People are using that money and they're hiring people to address the needs or the impacts of the pandemic. What we decided to do is to not lay off any of our existing employees and to use that one-time funding to keep our workforce intact. But we can't cut corners when it comes to English learners. And these are duties that have to be done by an administrator. And so we know that that may come with a restructure in a few years when we're out of the pandemic and the one-time money goes away. And we are committed to making those restructures at that time. There's a lot of other things that we're talking about in the budget committee, and we'll be doing a budget workshop with the board to talk about what are some of our short-term budget needs, our bond budget needs, our long-term potential budget cuts to the base when we look at long-term enrollment. As you know, we have a demographic study that is coming to the board, and we need to discuss that as well with the board. So those are on the horizon, but this is not coming out of ongoing base dollars.
Any additional questions? Discussion?
Just a request, if we can have a, measuring about how, because I was reading through it and I saw the yellow amendments that you did on that, and it's totally really understandable, but I would like to see what is gonna be the positive outcome of this amendments in the future for the impact that it's gonna receive, but especially English learning, knowing the fact that we have a high percentage of English learning and we're looking forward for their pre-classification in an early stage, right? So hopefully we can get some report, like mid-report or a final report when we have that. And with this implementation, this amendments will happen for the new person who's taking on board on this. This categorical funding is very crucial for us. I would like to ask that for a board. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. If we have no additional discussion, please vote. We have 4 yeses, 0 abstention, and 1 absent. Thank you. Item 15B is to approve revised job description for registered dietitians. Can I get a motion?
I'll move to approve the revised job description.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes, 4 yeses, 0 abstention, and 1 absent. Thank you. Item 16, Business Services. Item 16A is the presentation and approval of the National School District Audit Report and its findings for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. Mr. Venetian?
Thank you. Tonight we have Mike Mears from Wilkinson Henley. They are our auditors. They will present and walk through the 2021 annual fiscal audit. That covers the period of last fiscal year. Normally this is brought to the board in January, but because of COVID, it's being brought to the board in February. And also we will present Integrity Charter Schools audit, annual audit as well. So Mike, giving you the floor. Mike, can you hear us? Is he on mute?
I can hear.
I can hear you.
Can you hear me? I can turn my sound up if that will help. How's that? Is that better? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. It's not too loud, is it?
No.
No, it's perfect.
Okay, I just, oh, here we go.
Hello.
Okay. Am I on?
Okay, we're good to go, Mike.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's the wonderful world of technology. Here, present the audit. Is it that time?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm used to Zoom and this was on Google, so please bear with me, but I'm glad I've got contact. Good evening, everyone. Just to fill you in, my name is Michael Mears. I'm the audit manager for National School District. And I'm here to present the audit and ask any questions. There's two audits, actually. There's the district audit and integrity charter. I prefer to start with the district. Does everybody have a copy of the audit in front of them, either on their laptop or on the screen?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. I'm going to keep it short and sweet and then open up to any questions. If you go to page 1 of your audit, which is on our letterhead, it's called Independent Auditor's Report. And basically, that's our presentation report. And I'm happy to say that you received what they call an unmodified opinion. And basically, that means there were no scope limitations in your audit, no significant deficiencies, and no material weaknesses. It's actually the best audit opinion that you can receive from an independent audit firm. In moving forward, I'm going to have you all catch up to me. I'm going to go to page 88 of the audit. It's called Schedule of Financial Trends and Analysis. And this is a snapshot page of a 3-year cycle of your district's general fund. And it shows 3 years. And one of the things that we look for in the audit is to make sure that your district is meeting their reserve percentage, which you clearly are. One of the things I did want to point out, though, for 2021, if you notice for that column, there's a significant increase from the year 2020. And if you notice, your revenues and other sources are going up substantially. And the reason that is because of the one-time COVID pandemic funds and CARES Act funds that you received for that year, which is still going on, but it's more of a one-time source of revenues, and most of it is federal and state. So you're not going to get all of those CARES Act and COVID-19 grants down the road. Once the pandemic is over, I'm sure that money will trickle out. But anybody looking at your financial trends and analysis can clearly see that, and that's a good thing. It's healthy. It's a healthy balance, but that's the reason why. Moving forward, and you have sufficient reserves, by the way, in the general fund, including, of course, all the COVID and CARES Act money. Moving forward to page 101. Excuse me. Got that turned on. Moving forward to page 101. There is a there's a listing called financial statements, federal awards, and state awards. Those are the 3 areas that we look at as auditors, the main 3 areas. The financial statements we've already discussed and said that you received an unmodified opinion. And that's also the unmodified opinion for both the federal compliance awards and the state compliance awards. So I'm happy to say all 3 areas you received an unmodified opinion. You can also see on the federal awards some of the major programs that we audited, and you can see that's all the CARES Act and COVID funds that we received from both federal and state sources. Because that's the first time that you received them, they're going to be audited right away. I'm happy to say your district passed with flying colors on the compliance. Moving on to page 102. There were no findings in those three areas, as you can see. And then on page 103, which is right next door, there is two prior year findings. One has been implemented. The other one, you'll notice the instructional time says not applicable, which is unusual, and that's due to the COVID year, which basically removed a lot of the state compliance items and replaced it with remote learning. Instructional time was not up for audit for 2021. So it's kind of on limbo and hold until this year when instructional time will come back in. Then you'll see it implemented probably in the following year. It's like I said, 2021 was an unusual year because of the COVID issues and what we had to audit in different areas. That's pretty much a synopsis of what I have for your audit. Do you have any questions for me concerning your audit for the district?
I do have a question. Did you discuss any major accounting or auditing issues with any of our district staff?
Yes, we did. Primarily, we work with Irina and her staff, but we didn't have any major internal control issues of that matter. That's in discussion, but we always have discussion in all the financial areas that we do, primarily with Irina. And of course, some of her staff are payroll technicians, attendance technicians, things like that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Any additional questions? Okay. Well, thank you for your presentation on the National School District. We're going to move forward with approving the item, and then we'll move into the integrity charter.
Okay. And I apologize. This is the first time I've used Google, and I didn't have access to your meeting until I guess it was my time to come on, so it's a little bit of a surprise.
No worries, thank you. So
Thank
now we have the presentation. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve.
I will second.
Motion, we have a second. Do we have any additional discussion? If not, please vote. The motion passes 4 yeses, 0 abstention, and 1 absent. Okay. We'll now move on to item 16B, the presentation and approval of Integrity Charter School Audit Report and its findings for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. So, Mr. Valencia, bring him back on.
So Mike, if you could walk through the audit for integrity for us?
Sure, not a problem at all. The audio is still fine?
Yep, we hear you loud and clear.
Very good. Let's take a look at integrity. Again, turn to page 1. That's the one on our letterhead called Independent Auditors Report. And just to give you a synopsis of this audit, it's a nonprofit entity and is not included in your district audit. As a lot of you may be aware, there are 2 different types of charter schools. There's governmental charter schools, which are inclusive in your audit, and there's nonprofit charter schools, which are not part of your district audit. They're a separate standalone entity with their own reporting requirements, and they have to file Form 990, nonprofit taxes, etc. So, be that as it may, on the independent auditors report, I'm happy to say that they did receive an unmodified opinion. Again, there's no scope limitations or material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. In turning to page 5, that shows the revenue and expenses restricted and unrestricted. And on the totals to the right, the total column, you can see that their net assets at the end of the year increased And again, that's due to a lot of the COVID and CARES Act funds that they received. Now, they didn't receive as much as the district, but they just received it on a more smaller scale. But still, it was very helpful to receive those funds and increase their fund balance. Moving forward to page 33, which is the schedule of the auditor's results. And they were very close on federal compliance. And what I mean by that is there is a threshold of expenditures that they have to expend in order to undergo federal compliance testing from our firm. And that number is 750,000. They were just under that. So luckily they escaped and did not have to recognize any federal compliance procedures on our part. However, they are subject to the same financial statements, which again, I mentioned that was an unmodified opinion, and is also the same opinion on the state compliance issues. Their state compliance is similar to the district compliance with a few minor programs or adjustments. And on page 34, they did not have any financial or state findings, and they had no findings in the prior year as well, which is stated on page 35. Any questions on Integrity Charter School?
Yes, sir. Could you explain that concept a little bit more on the federal compliance of 750,000?
Certainly. The way it works is, and it's with any district or any charter school, any entity that receives federal funds. So if an entity receives $200,000 in federal funds and expends $200,000, they're not subject to any compliance rules. Now, we do test income and grants and things of that nature, but specific compliance requirements over grants, such as thorough testing of expenditures for the grants to make sure that they're spent in the proper place, payroll testing. There are certain federal items that the federal programs decide what needs to be audited and looked at. And that threshold is 750,000 per entity. And occasionally every 4 or 5 years, they'll increase that threshold. So when a charter school or a district, and we have some small districts too, are under that amount, and that's expenses, not income, then they are not subject or required to have a federal compliance audit. Now, if they are, as you can see by the district, there are certain major programs that we have to test, and there's certain requirements of what programs we have to look at based on how much is expended. Is it the first time we've received the federal grant, like all those CARES Act federal monies? We had to audit those programs because this is the first time you received that money. So they're subject to federal compliance if they're over the $750,000. I won't get into too much detail, but does that kind of answer your question of why that they're subject to federal compliance?
Well, I'll tell you what my takeaway is and see if we're speaking the same terms. Basically, we have to spend what we're given appropriately, and you're checking to make sure that we're spending what we were given appropriately within a certain total amount.
Time frame.
Okay.
That's correct, and it's more in depth when they're over the 750,000. It gets targeted into different federal programs, typically what they call major federal programs. So you might have 30 federal programs, and the in-depth federal compliance may be on 5 or 6 of them, because again, it's based on how much did you expend from those programs. If you spent $4,000 out of Title I, it's not subject to federal compliance because it's under that rule. They have Type A and Type B programs, and Type A is 750, and based on coverage, you can get a Type B, which is 187,500. Anything below that number rarely gets looked at or audited. because they want to look at the major programs that the district or entity has. Does that help you?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
I do have a question. Was there any disagreements or discrepancies regarding the accounting or auditing between yourself and any of the district staff?
No. In fact, Irina, I don't want to butcher her last name, Coward, is very, very helpful and is always very fastidious in getting things ready for us, explaining things. I mean, she's been, I think, a district employee for quite a while in her position. And we rarely have any disagreements with Irina and her staff. So the answer is no.
Great, thank you.
We have no disagreements or issues with the business manager and staff, no.
Thank you. Do
You're
we have
welcome.
any additional questions? Well, thank you so much for your presentation, and we will move on to the item.
Okay, thank you for your patience, and I appreciate everything, so thank you.
Thank you. So we have to make a motion to approve integrity charter for audit report and its findings.
I make a motion to approve the report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. If we have no additional discussion, please vote.
Aye.
All in favor? The motion passes, 4 yeses, 0 abstention, and 1 absent. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you as well.
Have a nice evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 16C is to approve contract CT 3921 with ISOM Advisors for continuing disclosure services for the general obligation bond. Can I get a motion?
I'll move to approve.
In a second.
I second it.
Do you have any discussion? I do have some discussion on this item. I'd like to request that the item, we make a correction on the term, and also a question in regards to the term. It states that it would be a 5-year term. However, the date reflects as February 2021 through February 2024. So we need to make that correction to reflect 2022 and 2026. 5, 6? 6, yes, okay. So, and also, can you explain why we would need to enter in a 5-year contract?
Yes. So the continuing disclosure is an annual report that is required, that we don't have a choice, we have to do it. If we issue public debt, continuing disclosure is a report that tells those bondholders what the status of the district is. So you're thinking about buying a bond from the school district, or it's out on the market, you hold it, you want to see how the school district is doing, and are they going to be able to make their bond payments. You look for the continuing disclosure, which discloses all of our information in terms of our financial status. This is a report. There are deadlines in terms of filing periods that have to occur. But the continuing disclosure is something that's done on an annual basis, and you need access to the system that the continuing disclosure is uploaded to. That's most of the cost of this. The firms have access to this software, which school districts cannot get access to. But it is something that, as long as we have public debt, we have to file a continuing disclosure. So it won't go away. It's something that we will annually do.
Hi, yes, I know it's a little bit confusing because we have 2 items back to back from the same firm, but they serve different purposes. This one actually is not the 5-year, the second one is the 5-year. This one in the term on the attached contract is an initial 3-year term with a 1-year extension as mutually agreed upon. So we bring that back to the board if we would like to extend it. So it would be reflective of February 2022 and then an initial 3-year, should the board approve this item tonight, which
The
would bring us.
text should read 3 years. Here it says 5 years.
Right, it should say, right, in the minutes, we'll make sure that the contract itself, it will match what's in the minutes.
So I think the maker of the motion can, if you agree with these corrections, to accept the motion with the corrections to correct the 3-year with the reflecting date of February 2022 to 2025. Correct?
Correct, and the terms as it's laid out in the contract itself is correct. It's the memo attached to it.
So, I'm sorry, so it's 2022 to 2024.
Correct, yes. And the continuing disclosure that was filed last year,
That's only 2 years. It's a 3-year contract, which would need to take it through to January 2025.
correct, from 2022 to 2025 with 2 additional options.
This says February.
February. So let's make sure that we get this correct.
Mhm.
So it's a 3-year contract, effective date February 2022 through February 2025. So 22, 23, 24, 25.
23, 24, 25.
Okay, so then it would have been 27 and 26. Okay, I just want to make sure. So 25.
It just said January, every January.
Well, and that was my throwing in, but if we start mid-year February, it'll go into February of 2025.
Okay.
It's just my brain.
February to February.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we're good. So for the 3-year correction, effective February 2022 through February 2025, with an option of a 1-year extension. Correct, okay, so,
Which we would bring to you for approval at that.
okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So, in this case, would you accept
It was not mine.
the motion was made by yourself and
Oh,
Christina was
I'm sorry,
second.
I'm thinking the last one. Yes, I accept the change.
Sorry.
I was about to say that.
And then you accept as a second.
Yes, I accept it. Just to make a comment on that one, this, disclosing here on the report, on the actual agreement, that is for, transparency efforts. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that. And it's 1-year extension period, and agree of extending 1 more. That's what it's a 5-year period.
So it's a 3-year
Mm-hmm.
correction from 5 to 3,
Yeah.
with the possibility of a 1 additional year extension would make it to 4.
Yeah.
But in order for that extension to happen, they would bring it back to the board for an approval.
So we're expecting yearly reports of this data, right?
This will be annual, and also, this firm discovered that our filing for last year was filed incorrectly, so they will go and fix that disclosure as well.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second to accept the corrections. Any additional discussion? Okay. If not, please vote. All in favor?
Aye.
We have 4 yeses, 0 abstention, and 1 absent. Thank you. Item 16D is to approve contract CT 3918 with ISOM Advisors for financial advisory services for the general obligation bond. Can I get a motion?
I'll approve as long as we look at the dates.
I'll second as well.
We do have a correction on the dates that need to be, so, it's February 2021, so we just need to change that to 2022, and everything else should be correct? So that's 5 years?
Does it need to change to 26 again, or to 27?
That was what I was asking.
Yeah.
So that's what I had, okay.
22 and 27, yes?
Yes, I apologize. Again, the agreement has the correct dates, but the memo does not have it.
Okay, perfect. the same question would be, we have to have this every year, so it makes sense to have the, because this one's a 5-year and that one's a 3-year.
Correct.
So what's the difference?
So the financial advisor, they manage the issuance of debt, the entire process of issuing debt, of refunding debt that's out there. And this could happen any time of the year, depending on where the market is, the needs of the district. So it could cross fiscal years, meaning if we approve this now, we might issue debt sometime next fiscal year. So it is one of those things that it's much like a professional service agreement with attorneys, where you approve an agreement with a law firm and you use their services for as many years as you need and go back to the market and look at what options are available. For this service, financial advisory services, the district is only charged when we actually use their services, meaning when we successfully issue a bond. If we go through the process, we go to the market, we look at interest rates and decide it's not the right time to issue any bonds, we do not get a fee, or we do not get charged for that service. It is only after we successfully execute a bond sale will we be charged for these services. And this firm is the largest firm in California in terms of issuing public debt for school districts by a wide margin.
So I have a question in regards to that. So let's just say I understand that they're the largest. However, what if we're not really a good fit for the services? Are we required to keep them for the 5-year duration, or we're able to get out of any type of agreement?
There's no nothing in the contract that has us with the firm permanently for 5 years. There's an opt out for 30 years we don't need any reason, no cause to opt out, and with the 30-day notice. We just simply give them a notice that we're no longer going to work with the firm, and that is basically it. And that's industry wide. So any financial advisor, all the agreements would have that kind of opt out notice. But this one in particular, we made sure we had just in case. Or it was the same as our last firm. It's a simple 30-day notice. We don't need a reason. So it's just the district wants to go in another direction.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second to accept to include the date correction of the February 2022 through February 2027. Do we have any additional discussion? No. Okay. Please vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4 yeses, 0 abstention, and 1 absent. Thank you. Item 16E is to award contract CT 3922 for bid number 21-22-197 to August J. Construction for window coverings at all school sites. Can I get a motion?
I motion to award contract.
Motion. Can I get a second? I will second. Do we have any discussion? Okay.
I have 2 questions. One is because I'm still new, and the other is because I want to make sure. So my still new one is that it states very clearly we require a minimum of 3 references. All those were good. I mean, like this is my still new thing. So everything was
All references were checked and they were good.
okay, because it is substantially lower than the other. And so I just wanted to make sure that we are receiving still good services and high quality and that expected delivery. So references were all great. Thank you. Then the second question, which is, what do we mean by hard built? Because our hard built up here, after completion, the window blinds will be in every hard built classroom. Does that mean just our, like the original standing buildings, but not the portables? What does that mean? Because as someone who has to practice lockdown drills and prays regularly that it's never just a lockdown, I know that blinds are, it sounds like blinds. It's not simply blinds when you're the one pulling them and hoping that all your students are safely inside. So I know their importance, but what do we mean with heart built? Is somebody left out?
Hard built is, so to speak, stick built buildings. So, yes, that would be physical buildings. This contract does not include portables, just because many of our portables already have blinds, and those that don't, the sizes are rather standard. So we could use some 3-day blinds to install portable blinds. This contract is specifically for all of our buildings because they are so unique in terms of their sizes and shapes. And Mr. Castillo spent many months going to our sites, taking measurements to make sure our scope was correct in terms of the installation needs that we have. This bid was specific to the buildings because the scope was so unique, so to speak. Portables have a very standard size, though any portable that we do not have blinds for, which we're doing an audit right now of. Many of our portables already do have blinds, but we want to make sure we catch any of those that don't. Those we could do with 3-day blinds. That could be a week to do that. Whereas this project, because of its scope, we wouldn't be allowed to do that kind of project with a vendor, just calling up a vendor to do that because of the cost. We had to go to bid for all of the buildings. That's the difference between hard built and portable.
All right, just making sure, because our portables have become permanents at districts all over. It's just knowing what's the difference in our perspective for those things. I just wanted to make sure I understood. Thank you, Ms. Revenencia.
I have a question. Can you explain to us what kind of blinds will it be, and will it be something like it's controlled? Is it an automatic thing? So just my understanding, how will they work basically?
They're roller shades, so I don't know how to explain it. I could tell you I have them at home. They work great. They let
Do you go do this, or do you press a button?
they let the sun in, but they completely block out any view of inside. Mr. Castillo, do you want to talk about how the controls will be?
Sure. They're all manual. So they're all stainless steel shades, and then actually, we'll give you more. They're all manual, and then due to code regulations and everything, they are spring assisted. So they're a lot easier than the ones we currently have because in type of classrooms, when you put those type of lines in classrooms, we're supposed to follow a certain code, and they meet that criteria.
And the description of our material that we wanted to make it so generic that once installation occurs, that we as a district can replace them if we need to over the years. We wouldn't have to go out and look for a vendor to service these. So we wanted to have a material and a product that was readily available that we can service ourselves down the line.
Can you tell me why we would have gone with manual versus an automatic thing?
Automatic is bound to fail, guaranteed to fail, and batteries are included in those, so you constantly need to change the batteries. The batteries are good, but the actual motor itself will fail. You have to look for the motor. You become tied to that system, so to speak. So unless you have a warehouse full of product to switch out the motor, switch out all the components, it becomes a really cumbersome system that's expensive to maintain. A manual system is simple, and also we can maintain it throughout the years.
Do you have anything to add, Mr. Castillo?
No, that's
What he said?
yeah. Pretty much. Well, we wanted to design it to where it was readily available. We didn't want to have anything where we'd have to special order. So in the event that there was one is torn, one failed, we can easily replace them as soon as possible. Whereas if we went to the battery operated type, We couldn't do electric, because if we did electric, that would, the cost would have been exponential. I mean, it would have been through. But going battery powered, they do fail quite often, like I said, to be honest. I mean, if we're not, they'd have to be monitored, they'd have to constantly be monitored, they'd have to be constantly tested, and they'd have to be, someone would have to constantly charge each battery. So they'd have to go in and actually, do a cycle and have someone constantly doing this and staying on top of it, every single one. And parts, it's just the use, it wasn't practical for us and the quantities we were trying to install to go in that direction.
Thank you, Dr. Brady.
Yeah, I'm assuming that you will get that best choice and the money discrepancies because of that description of manual versus electric ones. But I'm gonna assume this kids and ready to use friendly or a quick action when a lockdown happens. Like I'm assuming that's the description for that, right?
Mr. Castillo, will kids be able to operate the blinds?
Yes, yeah, that's why the criteria that we spec'd out, it has to be designed so that it's kid friendly, because that's why they're spring loaded, so they're spring assisted. So when you're actually pulling them down, it actually has a spring internally to it that helps do it. That's because of a particular code to help with strangulation as well, and any accidents of that sort. If anybody would get tangled up in them, it's a safety precaution built into the units.
Thank you. I was thinking out of the box when this happened. I'm assuming that a classroom has some certain drill to fill out and they have a training, somebody assigned to just pull down, roll it up and put it down and enclosure the kids in the classroom, right?
And the blind systems that are electronic or motor operated, they do take more time to lower than with a manual.
And just to clarify, the difference in prices is not because one was quoted as motorized versus one was quoted as hand manual, correct? So there's this discrepancy in prices?
Correct. The prices are according to our specs that we have in our bid.
I just wanted to make sure,
Yeah.
because I know that was kind of maybe,
No, it was they bid on the exact same request that we had. So
Okay.
it was no different in terms of, we only wanted manual. So the prices reflect what we wanted in terms of the specs. It doesn't reflect one system versus another.
Okay, thank you for that.
Dr. Brady?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank David Castillo and his team. Blinds have been a hot topic at the superintendent roundtable since before I was even a superintendent. In the past, there was a decision that was made that some classrooms would get blinds and others would get a tinted window. And a lot of the teachers felt that the tint was not enough. In the case of an active shooter, they felt if you got up close enough to the window, you could still see inside. Our board has traditionally always put safety first, and one of the criteria in the Measure HH bond was to do facility projects that were focused on safety first. And so we did talk to our bond advisor about does this qualify for using general obligation bond dollars, because it is a safety project, and it does fall in the scope of the bond. And so we had talked about going back and forth on where are we going to get the money. It's a very expensive project, but since Mr. Castillo has been on board, and with the help of Mr. Avanesian, they're able to go and do this hard work to get all of the unique measurements and to get this bid, and we're going to be able to start installing. And so we're very thankful for that, and to the community of National City for voting for the bond to allow us to be able to put these blinds into the classrooms.
One more question. When this project needs to be, is projected to be finalized, finally installed and ready to go?
It's too early to say, to be honest. If this contract is approved tonight, then we will work with the vendor on developing a timeline for installation.
Okay.
We do have a short summer, so
Okay.
it would be unrealistic to expect it to be done during the summer period. So as soon as we can share our timeline, we will.
Okay.
But we will have to work with the vendor on that.
Thank you. Thank you to all those that have been a part of this daunting task, because I know we've been talking about this for many, many years, and I'm so grateful that we're finally putting all of this together, and we will be able to provide this safety for our students in our community.
I also wanted to add one last comment. This was a collaboration with Mr. Hanson. John Hanson was also a part of this because he does all of the bids and works collaboratively with M&O. They actually came and spoke to the superintendent's roundtable, teacher participants, and they decided to do a pilot because there were a lot of questions about, should we do battery operated? Should we do pull down? Should we have them installed side by side so you could pull two curtains at the same time? Should they be blinds, the vertical blinds? Should they be roll-up blinds? So we did, a few years ago, right before the pandemic, we installed blinds in pilot classrooms across the entire district, and every single teacher that did not have blinds that was on the superintendent roundtable were able to get blinds at that time and provide feedback. And Mr. Castillo and Mr. Hanson went out and spoke to the teachers in those classrooms about which blinds they had, what they liked and what they didn't like about the blinds that they were given, so that that could inform this bid and this purchase. I wanted to make sure you knew that there was actual voice of the people living in those classrooms in creating the specs for this project.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so moving on, we have a motion and a second. If we have no additional discussion, please vote. All in favor? Okay, the motion passes, 4 yeses, 0 abstention, and 1 absent. Thank you. Item 16F is to accept donations. Can I get a motion?
So moved, with thanks.
Ms. Sarmiento, and
I'll second.
we have a motion and a second. We have no discussion. Please vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes, 4 yeses, 0 abstention, and 1 absent. Item 17 is board communications. Mrs. Lizarraga.
Thank you. It was a very interesting night. So I'm going to thank you to Michael Mears for this thoroughly and clear explanation about the audits, and I'm happy about the results, and we keep moving forward on this. And I would like to thank Dr. Brady for the then and now state of the district, and it was very interesting to hear people is happy about it, and we're very enthusiastic to continue to work on this. I also want to give a shout out to the people on DBAC and DLAC and our participants, and we never shout out to the parents that are really continuously advocating and attending to those meetings. And I know with this new regulations for this new coordinator will be a very good outcome with this, especially for the English learners. Thank you for that, and for realizing that wording on that job description is really important for our district. And I would wish everybody a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gates.
I also want to thank Mr. Mayers for the presentation tonight. Thank you, Mr. Avanesians, for working with him. And I strongly suggest that it sounds like Irina needs a coffee or a tea or a hot chocolate or something for as many times as her name came up in that audit discussion. And thank you to Irina and the rest of your staff for what they do. I'd like to also mention, we passed our 100 days. That's always fun. I have, to be able to track with the kids and see that 100 days is fun just because of it being 100 that we've achieved, but it's also fun because you realize, wait a minute, we're now in the back half of the year. And so we are still like kind of hit the top, like you're on a roller coaster and everything's starting to head down. Down in the good way. It's in the fun, like the fun part of the year as we've, been enjoying that time together. But congratulations to everybody as we are continuing through that year. I also will throw in Happy Valentine's Day coming up on Monday, and for all of those listening to us as we do our thing, may you have someone prayerfully in your life who cherishes you and shows you that you are cherished.
Oh, so sweet.
Thank you. Ms. Armenta?
Yeah, I have a few things. Number one, when can we bring back volunteers to the National School District? Was called because apparently they're doing it in Chula Vista, and parents are saying, win us. So I see a smile on your face. You must have been discussing it.
It's because it's on, well, it was in my state of the district last month, and we talked about our phase-in plan, and we were waiting for the Omicron to settle. And Dr. Kraft actually has that on our list for communications tonight, so that's why we're
I'll wait
smiling.
till you.
Yeah.
We'll be in suspense. Thank you. Also, I'll be meeting this week with the Assistant City Manager regarding the parking lot adjacent to Rancho de la Nacion Elementary School. I don't know if you were aware, at one time, the lot used to be opened up and our employees were able to park back there because obviously there's parking issues. At one point, they said, okay, we're gonna increase the rent for that parking lot, and we refused to pay it, so they put a padlock on the gate and won't let anybody in anymore. So I had talked with our city council member, Mona Rios, and I told her, I said, okay, they wanna raise the rent, we say no, so now they're getting $0 as opposed to, why don't they either charge us the same or slightly more, okay, I can understand that, but to lock us out altogether doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So anyways, we'll be discussing that. Also, I was contacted by a gentleman, Mr. Mike Marquez. He's a retired chief of police for San Diego Unified School District. I don't know if the name sounds familiar. He used to be a cop here in National City and moved on to bigger and better things, but he's now in business for himself. He's doing a pilot program regarding the active shooters. He has offered to come in and put in full safety, whatever, cameras, I don't know exactly what it entails, at one of our schools. Because he grew up in National City. He went to I don't remember which elementary school, but junior high, high school, graduated from here. His parents still live here. He wants to give back to the community. So he has offered to put in all the equipment for free at one of our schools, just to see how it works. It would entail, like I said, cameras, microphones, whatever is needed. And I told him I'd throw it out there. If you'd like to meet Dr. Brady as well as Ms. President Betancourt Castaneda, we need to sit down and talk, and he presents it really well. I just slayed it, but I think it's important that just hear him out, see what he has to say.
Absolutely. We'd love to hear what he has to say, what he has to offer, how that fits in. Yeah. Definitely can give me the contact information. I'll reach out and set them in.
Great, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Venetian?
Thank you. I just want to thank the Fiscal Services Department. They did a great job. They always do a great job, especially Irina Coward. She was a former auditor herself, and then she decided to work for a school district. But we're fortunate. Irina is a CPA, a licensed CPA. Michael Guerrero, he's our accountant. He's a licensed CPA as well. Very seldom will we find a CPA in a school district, and we have two of them. So we're very fortunate. They've done a great job. I can't take any credit for the audit, the results. It was from last year. They worked really hard to make sure we were in compliance with all of our audit needs. Also, Mike mentioned that there was a finding from 2 years ago for instructional minutes for John Ellis. We did just apply for a waiver through the CDE, the State Board of Education, and they did approve our waiver in January, which means we will make up those minutes and we will not need to pay a $80,000 penalty.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Hernandez?
Yes, I just want to remind our staffs that we do have our Teacher of the Year nominees coming forward, as well as our classified. So if we have any teachers that we would like to nominate at school sites or any classified employees, to please be sure you reach out to your supervisors and principals so we can celebrate our amazing staff.
Thank you. Dr. Kraft?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that I will do a presentation, an overview of the FPM findings, but as Trustee Lizarraga said, it's really important that we really focus on our English learners, so I want to make sure that we have a better understanding, and we'll do a presentation on the FPM instrument, which is what they use, which is aligned to the state and federal requirements. And then what arose to show the needs of our English learners from this FPM audit, as well as presenting the current performance data of our ELs. As Trustee Lizarraga said, it has been a very impacted area as a result of the pandemic. We want to make sure that we put in practices and systems moving forward, not just to address the compliance piece for our next FPM, because they'll be back, but also that we do the right things for our kids in between. So it's the positive that comes out of that. Additionally, we miss our parents, we miss our volunteers, and we had hoped to do it sooner, but unfortunately with Omicron, we always side on safety. And so we will be opening up our visitor volunteer applications at our school sites beginning on Valentine's Day. And we'll do a phase-in model just to ensure that we, again, maintain focus on safety. We'll begin with our parent leadership teams, moving into the watch and monitor that, and then the field trips, watch and monitor that, and then finally the classrooms, which of course are the most frequent. We're going to move slowly with our priority around safety.
Thank you. Dr. Brady?
Yes, I just would like to acknowledge that February is Black History Month. You probably saw my email acknowledging that National School District will be celebrating Black History Month, not just this month, but throughout the year. And to help us continue the celebration beyond the month of February, we are collecting titles of favorite books to add to our library and the collections that we have. So anybody in the district, all staff can suggest those titles. We'll be curating a standard list of titles with our library media assistants, and then those will be purchased through our LCAP funds for each of our school libraries. That doesn't preclude individual libraries from adding to those titles throughout their own funding and their own library needs as well, but that will standardize that within our district. I also want to thank the National City 16 Weeks of STEAM through the San Diego STEM ecosystem that have been developing units for our families to do activities at home around STEAM and STEAM learning. You saw the last time we did a presentation was this time last year that went from February 1st to the end of the school year, and it focused on the biosphere, the atmosphere, the geosphere, and the hydrosphere. This year, we launched again on February 1st. If you just Google National City 16 Weeks of STEAM, you'll see a beautiful website. And all of the units from last year are available in English, Spanish, and Tagalog, and they are currently being translated. They're available in English this year right now, and they're being translated in both of those languages by members of our teaching staff here in National School District. And the focus this year is engineering for people and the planet. So we're super excited about that. And on a Saturday, 2 Saturdays from now, our students and families can log in and talk to a real live woman engineer. And you'll be seeing that flyer come out in TeachJar, posted on our website, and really trying to get the word out to our families. So we're happy about that. And then I just wanted to say happy Valentine's Day to you all.
Thank you. I just wanted to say how excited I am to hear about our volunteers being able to come back, and especially on Valentine's Day to show that we love them, right? Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to Michael Mears for the audit report and all the staff that was involved in getting the report completed and having a positive result. It's not easy going through all of that, especially this time of year, but thank you to everybody because it's a definite major undertaking. And for me, I just wanted to wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day and thank you everybody who joined us here tonight. And I apologize for the technical difficulties in the beginning, but hopefully we can post all that at the end and we can make it all available for on our website. So thank you and have a wonderful night. Meeting adjourned.
So